Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
And I'm Leah.
And today we're going to continue to try to figure out the situation regarding Britney Spears. And we're talking about the hashtag Free Britney movement. And then we're also trying to explain to you what conservatorships are.
Right, so a conservatorship is created when somebody's physical health or mental health is really not in good shape, or maybe they're elderly and they can't take care of themselves. So somebody is appointed by the court to take care of that person, and that person who takes care is called a conservator. Person who's being taken care of is a conservatee, and that person just kind of makes sure they pay their bills, they get their food, they are okay in their day-to-day life.
Let's talk some more about conservatorships in today's program. Let's dig right in and read today's lesson from top to bottom.
As early as 2009, 1 year into the conservatorship, fans of Britney Spears stood in opposition to the scope of the observation and control she was placed under. As time went on and Britney's career gained momentum, a coalition of fans pulled together a formidable volume of information, including official court records, to track the case through the years. In 2019, Britney put her performances on hiatus as the stress from her father's poor health mounted. Although her public statement of June 23, 2021, alleges that she had less control of this decision that was originally portrayed in the news. The increased media attention on her expanded into coverage of the fan movement and statements of support from celebrities. In the June public statement, Britney outlined her distress under the conservatorship, her intention to press charges of conservatorship abuse against her father, and her desire to appoint her own lawyer. She also expressed fervent hopes that California's laws regulating conservatorship would be more closely examined and overhauled. Spears' wish was almost immediately granted, as her level of fame and wealth has certainly magnified shortcomings in the system that have long been known. California has 2 types of conservatorships, and both are notoriously complicated. In 2006, the state government passed revisions to conservatorship laws for both of these. Unfortunately, with the onset of the 2008 recession came a loss of funding that would have allowed for the increased oversight called for in those laws, and the changes never took effect. While conservatorships can do great good for those who need long-term help, it's clear from Britney's case that when they are poorly managed or entered into with suspect motivations, they can do terrible harm too. As traumatic as they have been, Britney's struggles may yet result in positive, long-needed changes to conservatorships.
Okay, let's explain the contents of today's lesson. It's a little difficult, actually, so we'll try to break it down into very small pieces so you can figure out what it means. And again, we're talking about conservatorships and Britney Spears' situation involving the conservatorship of her father. So as early as 2009, 1 year into the conservatorship, fans of Britney Spears stood in opposition to the scope of the observation and control she was placed under. Basically, what this sentence means is that only about a year after the conservative started, fans of hers were actually opposed to it. They were against it. They thought, hey, that's unfair. She's okay. Rock and roll stars sometimes have problems dealing with their fame and stuff like that. It's nothing unusual. So, indeed, she does not deserve to be controlled and observed so much. They stood in opposition to the scope or to the amount of that observation and control. So, opposition just means you're against something. You oppose that thing.
And just to put into context here, Britney was really out in public light from the time she was very, very, very young. She was expected to perform. She was expected to do a good job. She was always being, an actress, singer, and whatnot. And this is one of those things where you really start to think about what kind of damage getting kids into the professional world from a very early age does to them. When I was a kid growing up in Texas, we had beauty pageants, and we would always receive these flyers about how we could join beauty pageants. And there are some moms out there who are very into their daughters being in beauty pageants, but that process takes so much time and energy and so much focus on your looks and on getting pretty pictures and wearing pretty clothes that you have to think that eventually things like this have an effect on your mental health. Very much like Britney Spears, from this early age, all this pressure she was given had a lot of pressure on her mental health. So yes, there were things that maybe she never developed normally, like a moral code maybe that she didn't have normally, or she didn't know how to have people say yes and no to her. Maybe these are things she didn't learn like everybody else in the world learns every day. And that in that way, when she couldn't function as an adult, she needed help. She needed someone to help her with a conservatorship.
Right, and of course her fans were kind of opposed to the conservatorship. Maybe they thought it was a good idea, but they thought the control and the observation was just too much. That's why we're saying the scope of the observation and control. The fans probably thought it was just a little bit too much. Maybe her father can help her with certain things, but she doesn't have to be a total slave to him or something like that. And as time went on and Britney's career gained momentum, a coalition of fans pulled together a formidable volume of information, including various things, official court records, and they used these things to track the case through the years. So yes, indeed, time continued to move forward, and her career gained momentum. Momentum is just the ability of something to keep moving forward. That's I guess a term they use in physics, basically, momentum.
Talking about a car, right? As it's gaining momentum, it starts to move and it gets a little faster. It gains speed.
Yes, it's basically its ability to move, basically. So it gained speed. That's a good way to say it. It got faster and faster, and she became more and more famous. So then we have all these fans getting together, gathering information on her behalf. So we have a coalition of fans. A coalition is just kind of a union of fans. They all got together and formed a single group with a single purpose.
Right. A coalition is a group of anything, right? So it could be a group of businesses. It could be a group of countries that join together. So when they join together, that makes that group is a coalition, and they can then go and maybe be against something or for something. They might be against another country doing things to hurt their citizens, or they might be for the economic development of a new country, or not a new country, but a less developed country. And they put together a formidable volume of information. That just means a lot of, not just a little bit, but a lot of, a respectable amount.
Right, and that information included court records from the various trials that they had regarding the conservatorship, and they used that information to track the case through the years. They kept track of it. They kept their eyes on it. They looked for different kinds of developments and things like that, trying to figure out how they could help out their beloved Britney. And in 2019, Britney put her performances on hiatus as the stress from her father's poor health mounted. So here we've got the word hiatus, which means you kind of take a break, okay? If you're famous or something and you just have other things in your life going on, or there's too much pressure, you decide to just kind of step back for a while and take a break. You no longer produce records, you no longer are in movies, you just kind of take a break, and maybe you'll make a comeback later.
Put things on pause. So hiatus, you go on pause. And the reason why she did this at the time, it was said, it was because her father's poor health had gotten worse and worse. So her stress from his poor health mounted. Mounted here in my mind means got bigger or got stronger. So her stress got bigger or got stronger. It's like it reaches the top of a mountain. So as you're going up and you're reaching that top of the mountain, your stress is just going up and up and up. So that's my attitude of what that means. And although her public statement of June 23rd, 2021 alleges, it says, it infers that she had less control of this decision than was originally portrayed in the news. So maybe she didn't get to make this decision about whether she could take breaks or not. It is alleging, it is hinting at the fact that she couldn't really decide when she was able to take her breaks.
Maybe somebody made that decision for her. And here's the final sentence of the first paragraph. It says, the increased media attention on her expanded into coverage of the fan movement and statements of support from celebrities. So basically, she had this increased media attention. The attention on her expanded into coverage of the fan movement. So they were originally paying attention to her, and then the movement of the fans started being more important in the news. The media started to cover the fan movement more than they did her. So here we've got coverage, and that's a word we use when we talk about news coverage, when news organizations or reporters or whatever go to get information. It's talking about coverage. So the news coverage or the attention of the news on the fan movement increased. And then, of course, they were also paying attention to statements of support from various celebrities.
And that could also be like network coverage. For example, if you want to use Wi-Fi in America and you don't know if you have available network for it. So you might go onto a map of network coverage to see if like Sprint or AT&T or whatever is covering your area for Wi-Fi.
Right, or insurance can have complete coverage. It can handle all aspects of your life, your health, your property, and things like that, etc., etc. Okay, so there you have it, Britney Spears' situation. So far in today's program, we're going to take a little bit of a break right now and listen to our Chinese teacher.
听众朋友大家好，我们昨天开始带大家来看这个小甜甜布兰妮，她到底是不是可以夺回被剥夺的人生呢？不过啊，其实早在2009年，也就是监管1年之后啊，小甜甜布兰妮的粉丝就非常反对她，至于她这个小甜甜布兰妮呢是被监管这样子的一个状态。好，那当然时间会慢慢往前走，所以随着时间的移动，随着时间的推移 Britney 她的职业生涯获得动力之后呢，这个粉丝啊就聚集了大量的资讯，不管是法庭的记录啊，还有多年来的案件啦，试图想要帮助 Britney Spears。不过我们在这一段的第2句，请注意一下前面的 As time went on 这4个字可以画起来。当然这里的 as 有 when 的那种概念，不过我们不会翻译成当时间走了，而是随着时间往前走，随着时光的推移 as time goes on, as time went on。 好，那么接下来呢，我们时间就到了2019年，那么因为 Britney 她的父亲的身体状况不佳，然后呢就有一些压力增加了，然后他当时的表演也暂停了。但是其实在2021年的6月23号他的公开的声明，他觉得这个决定的控制权其实是比新闻描述的还要更少。所以我们看到除了这里 as 的 because 之外，后面逗点之后有一个 although，虽然当时2021年6月他的公开的陈述就提出什么呢？他的决定控制权其实比新闻描述的还要更少。好，那么当然这样媒体对他越来越多的报道的关注啊，就扩展到粉丝运动的报道，甚至名人的支持声明。
We're going to take a short break now, but please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hi, everybody. We are back now, and we're going to continue to talk about the hashtag Free Britney movement and really the question of conservatorships. What is the need for a conservatorship, and is it really all that necessary all the time? So here we are in the June public statement. Britney outlined her distress under the conservatorship, her intention to press charges of conservatorship abuse against her father, and her desire to appoint her own lawyer. There's been a lot of information in the press about all the different things her father has been doing over the years to her, threatening her if she didn't go and do shows, keeping money from her, threatening to keep the boys away from her, sons away from her. There was a story about him recording her in her bedroom conversations and just really leaving her with very little privacy and very little freedom. And that's why in June, when she had that public statement, she outlined her distress. When you outline something, you very clearly detail what is wrong with something. So she clearly detailed her distress, her anxiety, her fear, her concern, her worry under this conservatorship, saying this isn't right. Even though I don't necessarily know everything that's right, this isn't right.
Exactly. So she basically outlined her distress. She basically told everybody what she was going through, the terrible things that were happening as a result of the conservatorship. She also told people about her intention to press charges of conservatorship abuse against her father. So if you press charges, of course, you sue somebody, you take them to court, you want the government to fine them and maybe send them to jail and stuff like that. And yes, she was saying that he abused his conservatorship over her, and also she told people that she had a desire to appoint her own lawyer. So basically that's what she did in June in this public statement. Again, she did three things. She told us about her distress, she said she's going to press charges, and then she's going to find her own lawyer.
Right, and this is something that really needs to happen for her because she's been in a situation with no control, and then the people that are in control of her are being paid by the dad, so they do what he wants them to do. So she really has nobody who is listening to her, so she gets her own lawyer, and that fellow is really going to kind of help push for her needs and what she wants. She also expressed fervent hopes that California's laws regulating conservatorship would be more closely examined and overhauled. She said, she told people her fervent hope, her desperate, passionate hope. If you're fervent about something, you have a real passion for it. I'm a fervent horse rider. I love to ride horses every day if I can. That's not me, but just as an example. So her fervent, desperate, passionate hope is that the laws about conservatorships will be more closely looked at and overhauled. Overhauled here, it's like if you take a big scoop of dirt and you turn it over and you look through it and you fix, the ground again or so, and you just kind of make it all better than what it was before.
Well, you can overhaul your engine, for example, in your car. You can take it apart and put some new parts in there and put it back together and make it better than it was before. You overhauled your car's engine. Now, here in the next paragraph, it says, Spears' wish was almost immediately granted. They almost said, okay, we'll do those things for you, no problem. And the reason they almost granted her requests was because of her level of fame and wealth. Okay, so because she is such a famous person and because she is so wealthy, that has magnified shortcomings in the system. If it was a regular poor slob like me trying to make these requests, they would have totally ignored me and the system would have remained in place. But because she is so famous, hey, it magnified the shortcomings in the system. So to magnify, of course, means to make something larger in terms of how you can see it. So it magnified that. It let everybody know about all the shortcomings or the flaws or the problems in the system. And they've been known about for a long time, but they just haven't done anything about them. People don't really act on things unless they absolutely have to.
Yeah, normally if you have a shortcoming, it's something that, maybe you smoke cigarettes and it's a bad habit. That might be your shortcoming. So if you don't have to fix it, you're not going to. And now Britney Spears has come out and said, this is a shortcoming. The situation with the conservatorships is bad news. We need to fix this. So she's looking for a solution to the problem. And it says California actually has two types of conservatorships, not just one kind. And both of them are notoriously complicated. If If you've ever listened to the band Duran Duran, they had a song Notorious way back when. Notorious. So notoriously means famous for the wrong reasons. You can be a notorious gangster. You can be notoriously late, which means you are known for being something bad, late. You're not on time. You're never on time.
Or Chicago is notorious for its high crime rate, for example. And, of course, these two types of conservatorships in California are known for being complicated, and that's bad. So they're notoriously complicated. And in 2006, the state government in Sacramento passed revisions to conservatorship laws for both of these. So they finally started to realize, yeah, we got some pretty wacky laws here in California. We've got all these regulations and stuff like that. So, yeah, we've got to figure out how to make conservatorships less complicated, so they passed revisions. They made some changes to these laws, and hopefully conservatorships in California aren't so complicated now.
Well, there was a problem, though, because unfortunately, with the onset of the 2008 recession, came a loss of funding that would have allowed for the increased oversight called for in those laws, and the changes then never took effect. So even though they wanted to change things, and they said, ooh, this is notoriously bad, let's fix it, they couldn't do it because they didn't have any money. There was the onset of a recession. The onset means the coming on of. When something starts, that is the onset of that thing. So there was the onset of a recession, a period when there's not as much money around, when governments a lot of times don't have a whole lot of extra money to spend. And they lost some funding that would otherwise have allowed them to do this increased oversight. Increased oversight means more oversight, right? Just they would be able to look over the situation more, analyze where the problems are, and work on fixing them. So they were going to do this increased oversight on these laws, but now they don't have the money to do that, and therefore they never changed them. So they're still the same after that 2008 period.
But because of that recession,
they
didn't have that power to do that, so they just kind of forgot about it for a while. And while conservatorships can do great good for those who need long-term help, it's clear from Brittany's case that when they are poorly managed or entered into with suspect motivations, they can do terrible harm too. So yeah, I guess the point is that conservatorships are meant to be good. They're supposed to help people out, especially if you do need long-term help and if you do have trouble financing yourself or taking care of your affairs and things like that. But unfortunately, they're poorly managed sometimes, and they have suspect motivations. Like Brittany's father, I think, just wants to make a lot of money, and he doesn't really care about the health and well-being of his daughter. So, of course, conservatorships can do a lot of harm in situations like that.
Yeah, with Jamie Spears, that's very suspect. His motivations are suspect. That means you kind of think he's obviously up to no good there. And as traumatic as they have been, Brittany's struggles may yet result in positive, long-needed changes to conservatorships. So she got everybody aware of it in 2006, said, hey, there's problems here. And in California said, yeah, we're going to fix this. There's a recession. Things didn't get better. But yeah, there's hope that maybe, even though Brittany's had to go through all of these traumatic struggles, traumatic meaning terrible or damaging to the emotional or physical side of you, struggles, maybe in the long run, she and her fight that she's been going with are going to end up in getting these improvements in these conservatorships if she keeps fighting hard and everybody around her at #FreeBrittany fights too.
Let's hope that this happens. Let's wish her the best of luck. And that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. It's time now to listen to our Chinese teacher.
而在2021年，也就是今年6月的公开的声明当中，其实 Brittany 就概述了3件事情。我们在第二段呢，先把第一句当中的动词抓出来，因为这句蛮长的。动词是 outline 大纲，或者是写大纲，也就是概述的意思。哪3件事情呢？后面3个名词关键字先抓出来。第一 distress 痛苦，接下来往后看。第二 intention 目的，第三 desire 欲望或者是希望。当然 intention 就是一个意图啦，意图就是表示目的。 所以 Britney 她概述了3个重点，她的监管对她来说很痛苦。第二，她的 intention， 她打算要对父亲滥用监管做一个指控。第三呢，则是他的希望，他希望他的 desire 就是要任命自己的律师。那么同时他还表达了强烈的希望，这个希望是什么呢？我们接下来看第二句。第二句呢，请先把 fervent hopes 强烈的希望划线起来，后面的括号 that 一直到句尾，注意哦，这里不是关系子句，这里的 that 是一个没有意义的连接词，但是不能省略，它是一个等号的概念，它连接的整个句子是 fervent hopes 的补语，也就是说，这个希望就是从 that 一直到句尾所陈述的这一件事情。那你说，老师，我到底要怎么样判断 that 是不是关系子句呢？因为这个 that 前面也有先行词啊，后面感觉上是一个句子。注意，如果 that 到句尾它是关系子句的话，那么 that 到句尾中间一定会有少主词或者是动词。我们在这边看到的动词 would be 之前有完整的主词 be 后面句子也整个都完整，什么都不缺。在文意上，这个 that 到句尾就是他的希望，他希望做的事情，所以 that 当然是一个等号的概念，也就是呢，它是一个无意义的连接词，连接的是 hopes 的补语。好，那么当然 Britney 的希望几乎要实现咯，因为他的名声、财富水平其实就放大了在监管系统当中的一个缺陷。我们看一下第3段。第3段第一句当中，逗点之后的 as 是 because， 拨带了一个限定用法的关系子句，先行词是 shortcomings in the systems， 关系子句从 that 一直到句尾的地方。所以2006年州政府就通过了一些修订，不过不幸的是2008年因为经历的经济衰退，所以资金流失，改变从来都没有生效过。最后一段我们来看一下第一句。第一句的 unfortunately 不幸之后，请先把动词的 come 抓出来。我们看到过去式的 came。好，请在动词前后打个斜线。动词的前面的 with 一直到 recession 这个地方，其实本来全部都是句子的副词，真正的主词是在 came 后面 a loss of funding。主词带了一个限定用法的关系子句，从 that 一直到逗点的地方，所以它是一个强调因为2008经济衰退，所以一连串带来的是资金的流失。好，然后加上一个关系子句。那么当然现在变成整个系统没有办法做一些改变，不过虽然 Britney 她的这种痛苦是很难忘的，但是对于监管还是需要一个长期的改变。同样最后一段的地方，最后一句请特别注意一下前面的 as traumatic as， 特别注意第一个 as 呢是可以括号省略的，那么第二个 as 在这里是 though 或者是 although 的意思，所以句子本来是 although they have been traumatic， 我们把 traumatic 放在前面做一个强调， traumatic as they have been， 也就是 as 当 though 的一种强调句型，最前面的 as 是可以省略。好，希望大家这2天能够从 Britney 的事件 learn something。 我是 Anna， 我们下次见咯。
That's it for today's lesson, everybody. And, this is very educational about conservatorships. I've learned a lot, but actually I'm more inspired to actually go online and listen to some Britney Spears songs. I'm not very familiar with her music, so maybe this is a good opportunity for me to brush up on her talent. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today, and we look forward to seeing you again next time. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
And I'm Leah.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.